Okay, I know our players and our coaches are glad that game week's finally here. Looking forward to playing, one of the best teams in college football. When I look at Washington defensively, they were top 10 defense last year. They got 9 starters back. They fly to the football. You can tell they really know their responsibilities. They know their answers. It's pretty impressive to watch. They're very good against the run. Secondary, statistically, is one of the best secondaries. In the country. When you look at them offensively, their quarterback is a veteran guy, one of the most veteran guys in the country. They have 8 starters back. Their running back, three straight 1,000-yard seasons. I think he's set up to break their all-time rushing record in the history of their school. And then they got a big offensive line. When you look at their special teams, they got the majority of their guys back. They're very good. In all 3 phases. So it'll be a big challenge for us. And like I said before, it'll be a really good test about where we're at, this season with the first game. Couple updates. Richard McBride, he's going to be out for the season. He is a wonderful young man, had a neck injury, and he'll be out for the season. We hate it for him. He's been with us a long time. He was set up to have a very good season. Joey Gatewood has a thumb issue. He will not play this week. Cord Sandberg will be our number 3. And I will say this, that, Cord's really progressing. He's really impressed Coach Lindsey with everything that goes with it. When you look at our depth chart that we released, you see a lot of freshmen, a lot of young guys. There's a good chance the majority of those guys, if not all of them, will be on the field in some capacity on Saturday. But, overall, like I said, we're glad that game week's here. And ready to get things going. Questions?
Starting with Richard, I know he's going to be the 4th or 5th linebacker there. Just what does that do to the depth chart at the linebacker?
Well, we feel like we have a little depth there. Obviously, we have the 3 senior starters, but with KJ Britt, Chandler, and some of the freshmen, we feel like we've got some depth. Yeah, he had a finger issue last week, but we expect him to be fine.
Will he practice though?
I'm sure he will. Yeah, he should get a lot of attention too. Like I said, I think he's set up to break their school record, and they've had some great players. So, he's a dynamic guy. He's a veteran guy and very experienced. That's really the one thing that when I look at this team, they're just very experienced. And an experienced team that's had success, that presents some challenges. They won 10 games last year and got the majority of their guys back. So, that's a challenge.
Gus, what did Marshall do to win this job? Is he one of the most improved individual players on your
Yeah. He'll be the first guy out there. And he has improved, there's no doubt. And the fact that he has experience, it was a real close race. And, we feel very good about him going out there. But at the same time, Sipos, there's a chance he could play too. So, we'll see where that goes. But we have 2 quality punters is what we got coming out of fall camp.
The Mercedes-Benz didn't treat you all real well last season. Have you done anything to purge the memories of that place?
That was last year. From a coach's standpoint, every year is different, and this is the first game of the season. Obviously we like playing there, for that's where they play the SEC championship, and of course that's our goal every year. So looking forward to playing there. Like I said, we're playing one of the top teams in the country. I know a lot of people is a popular pick to be in the Final Four. I think that's well deserved when you look at them. So, but no, we're glad to be playing in Atlanta again.
We didn't see much of Sal late last season.
Mm-hmm.
Here he is starting on the depth chart. What has he been able to do this offseason?
Yeah, he's one of the more improved players that we've had on our team too. And the fact that we had the 2 ACL injuries in the spring really gave him more opportunities, and he's really seized the moment. And he's a guy that Stidham trust, and he's a real versatile guy too. He's not just a receiver. He can do a lot of different things. He can play with his hand down. He can play H-back. He can play wide receiver, inside, outside. So he gives the offense a lot of flexibility. and he's improved too. You know, I mean, last year was his first rodeo, and there's nothing like experience.
You all had slow starts, no secret, especially offensively, and pretty much every season that you hadn't had a returning quarterback. Is it just that simple, or can you kind of explain?
I think there's a lot of different factors with that. I mean, obviously, when you have a returning quarterback, I mean, that definitely helps. But a lot of it has to do with opponents too. You know, and when you're playing a really solid opponent, sometimes your deficiencies can be, recognized early. And then from a coach's standpoint, there's always some questions that we have, as far as the first game, how people are going to respond, especially if they're new people, new starters, or freshmen. You feel pretty good about how you think they're going to react, but you really don't know until you get out there. But I think there's a lot of factors that go with that. Yeah, we're playing one of the better teams in college football, and we have our quarterback back. And so, I think the fact that our quarterback's back, that gives you a comfort. At least you know what you're getting at that position.
What's it say about Whitlow that not only he in the number 2 running back, but also as a kickoff returner, how much he's shown you from a durability, versatility standpoint?
Yeah, the thing that stood out about Booby to me is just his mental drive, his toughness, his want to. The moment's not too big for him, and for freshmen, that's what you worry about. But he plays with an edge. He practices with an edge. He's one of the guys that have got the respect of his teammates because of that. So that had a lot to do with him, being in that position where he's at.
Gus, how much more comfort are you getting with kind of a different role than you used to have? More of a CEO kind of deal with Chip being back for his second year?
I think that if you've got continuity back, you've got experience with the guys back, it does nothing but help you. And Chip did an outstanding job last year. I think everybody could see that, and he's back for the second year. And we got the whole offensive staff, but the offensive line coach. But Chip was very, experienced with JB before. He was here in 13, and so it's a pretty smooth, go about it this time, compared to last year.
What do you do, like in camp, during camp, over the course of camp? What do you do differently now than you did, say, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, different things. A lot of times I'll focus on one position. On offense, I'm a lot more involved in special teams and slip over the defensive field every now and then. But it's comfortable. It's comfortable. Anytime you got your coordinators back, from a head coach's standpoint, you have a comfort.
That's obviously facing a guy like Jake Browning. You're going to see the ball thrown a lot. How much more comfortable do you feel about the secondary depth now that you got through camp with those young guys?
Yeah, I think those 3 freshmen that you see on the depth chart, all 3 of those guys have earned that, and there's a good chance you'll see those guys out there at times too. So, just trying to develop that depth in the secondary. Obviously, are the first guys we put out there. They have experience. We know what we're getting. Those young guys are in a good spot. They just got to go out there and execute.
Can you talk about the running backs as a group, your expectations for them this year?
Yeah, we've got some talented guys, some inexperienced guys, but they're talented. So I think you'll see that group grow. And the thing that stood out to me is they all run hard. I think they're all tough guys. They're all a little bit different. But, if you look back at our history, I really feel like when we've been at our best at the running back position, we've had some different type guys. And so I'm excited to see, how that group, moves forward.
Who is that third guy at running back?
What's that?
Is there a third guy at running back?
Well, you've got Worm that I think is going to do a good job, and you got Asa Martin that's going to have a chance to be out there. So I'd say those 4 guys will all have a chance to play this first game in some capacity.
Do you think you have a 1,000-yard rusher on that group?
Well, we've had 9 in a row, and I like our chances.
Coach, is it a different feel? You said a minute ago that you don't know how guys are going to react to it being the first game, and with less room for error, playing a really talented team, a top 10 team, is there a different feel going into this game than maybe when you're playing
You know, usually teams are excited no matter who you're playing week one. And usually it's not one of those things that you have to worry about getting up for. The fact that we're playing a really high-profile game, you know, it brings a little bit more to the table, I'm sure, on both sides, and then from a national standpoint.
Is there an advantage to that? Coach Peterson kind of said that young guys playing the big game feel kind of bowl game, take two games. Is there an advantage that you like about, you know, putting players in the situation?
You know, I think your experienced guys that have already played in big games, and, you know, we're fortunate enough, if you look at our schedule, there's quite a few big games. But the experienced guys, but probably more than anything, we'll learn about our inexperienced guys with a big game type, you know, atmosphere and everything that goes with it. So that's probably the best area that we can find out, you know, information from our players.
Gus, is there a certain importance that it's been brought up multiple times already about not just playing in Atlanta, but how the season ended there last year, to ending this now, as opposed to like winning it? It's no longer something we're talking about. It's no longer something the players have to think about. But that if you were to lose this game this week, it hangs over them.
Yeah.
The next time they go.
Yeah, no, you know, of course, you hear a lot from the media. I get that question a lot, and I'm sure fans think about that. But really, from a player-coach standpoint, it's a new year, and we're playing one of the best teams, and we're playing right down the road, and it's a place that we play the championship game in. So we need to play well. We need to play well to win, but you know, don't get caught up too much in all that. I mean, every game's big, but it's a new year.
Coach, obviously when you have an opener, you know, penalties can happen, right? Just because it's that
Sure.
first game, you're not certain how the game's going to be called. You've had openers where you had few penalties, had some where you had 8 or 9. How is that practiced, handled during camp, where you at least going in saying, okay, we've done all we can do to avoid a number of penalties in a game that's going to that could be very close with penalties?
Yeah, you know, in opening games, I mean, penalties are always something on a coach's mind, turnovers, and really big plays in the kicking game. I mean, you see a lot of opening games that there's mistakes in the kicking game, and from a coach's standpoint, those three things, you know, in fall camp we've tried to emphasize and overemphasize and over-prepare and all that, but, you know, each game kind of, you know, has a life of its own. Probably the biggest stress from a coach's standpoint is the new guys, kind of like I said earlier, that, you know, you feel like you know how they're going to react and you do all you can during practice, but there's nothing like a game. And some guys are inexperienced, play better than they do in practice. Some guys don't play as good as they did in practice, but, you know, it's all those opening game things is penalties, turnovers, special teams. They're all big factors in the first game.
Gus, going back to the running backs, I know you guys put an emphasis on whoever can block the best will see the field a lot too. Just how those guys come along, and anybody really stand out throughout the course of preseason?
You know, I know that, you know, Coach Horton's not going to put a guy out there that he doesn't have confidence that can protect also. And, you know, so all three guys or all four guys that we talked about earlier are guys that, you know, he has confidence in and, you know, to do both.
How much work have you put in the offseason on your coverage teams, and do you feel like you've improved in that?
You know, that's really one of our main focuses in our team was our coverage units, our kickoff coverage and our punt coverage. And then our field goal protection. I mean, those three phases has been a team focus since, you know, the last game. And I know we've improved in all three. We'll just have to show it on the field.
Gus, the offensive line, how much have you seen them kind of grow a little bit when they started becoming one unit?
Yeah, probably the last week, you know, we started getting some consistency with guys where they're at, and they have improved the communication that goes with it and everything that goes with it. So, you know, we're feeling as good as we can right now. That group's playing with some confidence, and obviously going against our defensive line every day in practice, you know, definitely helps you too. And I don't think that we'll at least be overwhelmed when we play someone, you know, so we'll at least, you know what it feels like to go against a big-time defensive line.
Kim's the clear winner at center, or is there still?
Yeah. Caleb Kim is our starter, and Nick is right behind him. I know Nick's, you know, pressing him, and you know, Nick is starting to get healthier, and he's been practicing, I think, for almost 2 weeks. So the fact that you can't have enough centers, and right now we have two, but Caleb Kim has done a good job, to earn that spot.
If something were to happen, is Nick prepared to play on Saturday, or would you go to Mike and move pieces around?
I think that question will probably be answered better at the end of this week, but I'd like to say Nick could do it all right now. Like I said, he's only practiced, for about 2 weeks, but, Tucker Brown's also a guy that, has reps at center, and that I know that we'd feel comfortable with him going in there. As far as Mike playing center, I don't know if we're to that point, but Nick Brahms would be our best solution, but we can answer that probably better at the end of the week.
You've spoken also about wanting the third tackle, third guard. I feel like you had depth, so is that Calvin and Bailey respectively?
Bailey Sharp and Trox, both those guys we feel confidence in that if one of those guys went down, Calvin, we're confident to have him at guard. That's where he's really settled in, and I think he's getting more and more comfortable on a daily basis at guard.
Your three interior guys are all redshirt juniors and came in together. They played together a lot in practice, even though they haven't started together.
Yeah, you talking about defensive line?
Offensive
Oh,
line.
the offensive line? Yeah. They. Yes, yeah. Those guys are of course, those are veteran guys. Been around a long time, and I know Coach Grimes is leaning on Markwell and Horton, from leadership up front, and both those guys have been very consistent, very solid. You know what you're getting with those guys, and they've really stepped up in a leadership role for Coach Grimes too.
Not to belabor the point on the offensive line, Gus, but for Jared in particular, just how important is it with an opponent this good, with a defensive front seven this good, in particular, where, like all quarterbacks, Jared performs better when he's not under pressure. The stat disparity is pretty big, but that goes for everybody. When you're going against an opponent this good, secondary with 2 or 3 All-Americans in it, to keep him protected, it kind of goes without saying is going to be quite important for this group.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And of course, looked at our sack total from last year. It's one of the most we've had since I've been at Auburn, and that's been a focus too, protecting our quarterback, not the negative plays with the sacks. And of course, that's going to be a challenge against this group. You just said it. I mean, very, very talented front seven, with, like I said, one of the best secondaries out there. So, we'll have to do a good job, protecting him. And so I think that'll be a big key in the game too.
Gus, what did Nick Coe really do to separate himself at Bucks from?
Yeah, he's been consistent. He's been consistent. He's really stepped up, and that was a big factor, with that.
With Anders Carlson, obviously everyone's going to try and associate, with his brother, the success that Daniel had the last 4 years. How comfortable are you with that position group with the rest of your session?
Yeah, I mean, he won the job. He's very talented. I think everybody knows that. But we got confidence in him, and he just needs to go out there and do it in games. I mean, he's done it in practice. He's got a big leg, very similar to Daniel. He's done a great job on the kickoffs, and he's done a great job on the field goals too. So we got a lot of confidence in him, and he's got a big leg. So don't be surprised if we give him some chances from far out.
We've spoken a lot about just the massive improvement under Kevin the defense has had, but in talent, as far as just raw talent, what's on the field player-wise, guys, is this the most talented defense you've had heading into a season? I know you want to answer this in December, but
yeah, I'd say it's probably right now. You'd say it's one of them. Like I said, we've got a lot of guys back that had a successful defensive season, and like I said earlier, I think we got a chance to be just as good or better. Now, all that's yet to be seen. We got to transfer that over to games, but I like our defensive makeup, and our defensive staff's all back, and Coach Woodson came on board to add to what. So, just like I was saying with offense, the continuity of the players knowing the coaches and coaches knowing the players, I think that goes a long way as far as staff goes.
Coach, how important is Marlon Davidson's role on the defense this year, especially going into his junior season?
Yeah, Marlon's, this will be his 3rd year to start. He started as a true freshman, got a lot of experience. I think the biggest difference now than last year is he's healthy. He wasn't healthy at this time last year, and I think it kind of hurt him throughout the year. He didn't really ever get fully 100%, and I think he's healthy. He's really playing good football now, and so I think he's in a good spot.
The Tramel's injury with the hand, does he have to wear like a glove?
We'll see. We'll see when it gets close to the game.
Because there aren't many commonalities between the two staffs, but obviously Bush worked with Elia, both at mainly at Ark State. Obviously,
Yeah.
worked any communication there between you and Elia, just to because I would imagine that they literally know your offense because of that. So
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're familiar with them. They're familiar with us. I mean, that's part of it. We got a lot of respect for their head coach. I mean, he's one of the good guys in our business, and he's one of the guys that a lot of coaches look up to, and just does everything first class.
anything else? All right, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.